take your life seriously.
Okay, welcome to the Beyond Limits podcast. We're going to dive deep into the BJJ Insights episode today. Mark's not with us, unfortunately he's away, but I'm joined today with Espen. Espen, can you just let the guys and girls know a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a Jiu-Jitsu competitor from Norway. I've started like 14 years ago, and since 2014 I've been full-time with Jiu-Jitsu. So I've been competing around the world, and I'm traveling doing seminars, and yeah, that's basically what I do.
Yeah, so you full-time, you know the grind. You know the grind we talked about.
I know the
earlier
grind.
on.
I know the grind.
So you just come back from the Europeans. How did that go for you?
It went pretty good. I was able to get silver.
Oh, nice.
Obviously, I wanted to get the gold. That was my goal. But overall, I have to zoom out, and I'm pretty happy with my performance. I was able to hit some cool moves and do some new stuff.
That's cool.
In the final, though, I wasn't able to really get my game going, so it just shows I have stuff to improve on.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go back to the lab in some sense and make sure I'm better next time.
That's good. Do you? I find sometimes those losses do give me a little bit of a kick up the butt, and also it's big learning points from those things.
For sure. Every time I'm losing, I feel I'm get better. It's like such a motivation. It's like because when you compete and lose, you start like really thinking about it and want to make sure that's not happening again. So it's always helping.
And sometimes you win. You get. Well, I found I've got a bit complacent sometimes.
Yeah, right. You get comfortable. And yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, congratulations on the silver as well, mate. So another exciting news, you've got a new team starting up with John Thomas. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so me and John we were talking, then we kind of both had been thinking about it, and we discussed about like starting our team and go together and have our own team. So that's been in the plans for a while, and now we launched it. So it's been really cool. It's been very cool to see how positive people have been, and people have been reaching out, and they are curious about it. So that's been amazing.
That's good. So it's called the Mavericks?
Yeah, the Mavericks.
And I think, is that, the names probably gives it away a little bit. I think from seeing you guys train together and the way you sort of do your training, do you see yourselves as a little bit different to normal standard academies, or the way you train? I feel like it's a bit different.
I think both John and I we always tried at the best of our abilities to kind of look outside the box.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy when you go into an environment or culture to just blindly accept the ideas. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things in Jiu-Jitsu where I came into Jiu-Jitsu that didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Like how you structure the classes, how you do things, it didn't make sense. So I've tried quite early to just kind of go my own path and do the methods that I believe is the most efficient ones. And so have John too. So for the years we've been training, we've always been discussing both on like a technical level, but also like in terms of learning methods, which state to be in to perform the best, and all these things we're constantly like thinking about and trying to evolve, I guess.
It's really smart, because you are right. When you go into an environment such as a gym culture, especially there's that like hierarchy almost, and the black belt or whoever at the top dictates what goes on. It's like you seem to have, from an earlier belt, was like, oh no, you obviously appreciate what's been taught, but then there's other ways and stuff of learning which you seem to have taken on board, which would be quite difficult for somebody going into a new environment like that to do. So it's amazing what you two are doing. What do you think then makes you different, would you say, to the standard kind of training that probably most gyms do?
I think like in general we don't, for example, I feel a lot of people are not necessarily so efficient with their times. They go to the class and they like use a lot of time like just doing standard warm-up, running around, stuff like this. And they go to classes just kind of there to listen. They're not using their own brain, trying to understand, get better understanding of the sport in some sense. So I think what we are doing different is that when we step on the mats, the whole time we're there, we're trying to get better. We're always like being efficient. So I'm never just running around doing normal warm-up. I'm warming up by like kind of drilling and then slowly increasing the resistance and the tempo. But I guess in general, we're always like trying to develop constantly, and we take a lot of responsibility. I never go and expect someone to give it to me. I try to myself understand. Of course, I'm going to discuss. I want to hear other people's opinion. I want to work it out, but also make sure that I'm responsible for my own learning. I don't expect anyone to like just tell me what to do blindly. I want to make sure that I'm kind of like making me do the right steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, because I'm part of a school now, and I'm coaching on and off with that school, and I think sometimes students do expect you as a coach to give them all aspects of jiu-jitsu there and then, but it's difficult. Like where I train at Checkmat Plymouth, we've got different instructors with totally different games, and then so we normally try and stick to like a theme, and then Ian will show his theme of that, and then I'll show mine, and Amy will show hers, and that way we always try and reinforce like you need to take what works for you. It might be different for different body types, and then make your own thing out of it. And I always find that
100%.
students that do that, they progress so much more quicker than the actual ones that just turn up. And I can understand sometimes, I suppose it's a hobby, people just want to come to class, socialise.
Yeah.
But I do see a massive difference to those people that do take that onus and think, right, well, I'm learning this, I can self-study and do all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So talking about your training, I could be wrong about this, but it seems that you learn advanced guards at the earlier belts.
Yeah.
It's something that we try and do down at our academies. We don't separate beginners and advanced. And sometimes, we talked about this earlier on, but some people can be put off by that because, but the ones that stick through it and they actually learn those advanced guards earlier on, purple, brown belt, then they become really efficient at that move, because I suppose it takes a long time. Do you recommend that for schools or?
Yeah, I think in general, it's very often the idea that like when someone starts, they have to go through the most basic, like only close guard, only half guard and stuff like that. And then sometimes in the beginning you have this kind of enthusiasm, like you want to learn maybe something advanced. I was like that. I saw like the De La Riva and the Mermbolo at the end of my white belt, and I wanted to learn. Yeah. But then if I just had listened to the coach and be like, no, you cannot learn that, that would kind of kill my enthusiasm. And I think it's very important to kind of let people follow that enthusiasm, because then they really want to learn, and they're probably going to learn a lot when they get to unfold that, you know what I mean? So I think it's very important not to kill that spirit, but actually like encourage it. And that when they keep doing that, they're going to learn so much. And so I really think like don't limit people to only learn like just the basics, you know?
I think you're right. Enthusiasm is something that, because we talked about it, it's grind, and if you've got that enthusiasm behind, then it's going to not get as tired as quick.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if you're not enthusiastic about something you're learning, you're probably not going to learn it well. Because if you like brain is like you don't really want to learn, you're not gonna absorb so quickly. Yeah. But if you're super hyped about it, you're gonna learn quickly. So you really need that kind of energy to learn jiu-jitsu.
That's good. I think that's why we try and offer different styles of classes. So we got like a 6 a.m. class that we call the Death Squad, because they're all like normally they're like road workers or engineers, and they just come in early to try and get that done so they can spend the evening with the family. Probably one of my favourite classes, but they do try and kill each other at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, guys, please don't, because you got the rest of the day. Yeah. And then we have like 10 a.m. crew. He's like, everyone comes in with like coffee, just chilled. It's probably my favourite kind of like time to train. And then the evening sessions are just busy. So I think if you have those different feels, it like you, when you come in, if you're a competitor, maybe you want to do the 11 o'clock class, or you that way it sort of maintains the enthusiasm of those people that want that.
For sure.
So we talked a little bit about your training, the way you go. I've got to ask this question, okay? Because everyone's asked me. Training routine. Can you just talk us through a general day? I know it's different, and you've got different events going on, and gi and no gi, but just generally, what's your day structured like? So
in general, I don't have like a set formula I'm trying to follow. I use all the different tools that's necessary. So a lot of people try to find the holy grail of how to train, while I'm trying to, depends what I'm trying to achieve. If I'm learning a new position, I might even do like mechanical drilling, like without resistance. But most of my training throughout the years has been like what we call active drilling, which is like with resistance. And it depends how much resistance. But the idea is you want to have resistance, because then it's realistical, right? Because if you just drill mechanically, it's not going to be so good. So a lot of my training is like focused on that, like kind of where we're almost like doing specifics or like sweep pass and really trying to create the scenarios. And then throughout the session, it's going to be almost like sparring. But also later times, I've been rolling a lot. But in those rolling, I'm not just rolling to win, I'm experimenting, trying new things. And the way I'm doing jiu-jitsu is not just about So for example, some days it's about trying to get better techniques. I'm experimenting, but a lot of times it's also about trying to be creative. So I'm just trying to see what happens. I don't have always a very strong intent with the session. Because a lot of people are like, you always have to have a plan for the session, which I think is very important at times. You have to have that to kind of develop some new things. But it's also important sometimes come in and be more like open and let your jiu-jitsu kind of unfold. And that's where in my experience, I feel I get very creative. I start to do all of a sudden new moves, new patterns that becomes a part of my game. Because when I let that happen, I start doing the moves that comes natural to me. It's not something I try to force or mimic. It's just my moves. So a lot of my sessions are actually geared towards that, kind of like trying to find a zone where I let my jiu-jitsu unfold, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose, do you think it takes both partners to play that game? Is it hard to do that against a partner that's trying to just go really hard? If you know what I mean? I
think it doesn't matter on their, like they can be going hard, they can be going light, but how I'm approaching it, I can still work independent. So if someone is going super tense, what's important is not to fall into that yourself, but that kind of stay like in that flow zone, I would say, nice. and move around and let your jiu-jitsu kind of go in some sense.
Yeah, perfect. You think that's I've seen some of your competitions recently, and you seem to be just adapting really fast in the moment, which is amazing to see. I think because I've progressed quite quick across my career, but I think it's mainly because I've competed quite a lot. But I've just had the set game, so it's like get to this position. I know the reactions from that position, and I feel like I'm stuck on that set route a little bit too much now. Now I'm trying to open it up a little bit more and be a bit more. I found it a few times. I'd say flow in a competition. Where you're right, you can just adapt like quickly in the moment, which is it's really hard to do. So that's something you actively practice in the training room.
For sure, that's something I actually put a lot of work into. Because what I did at the beginning, it was very natural for me to go for like the berimbolo, because I had a lot of success with that. So that would work to have that almost like a game plan. But what I felt, it also made me a bit tense, because I was trying to almost steer the direction of the match. So I'm forcing. So when it went my way, that was perfect. But when it deviated, it made me a bit stressful and more tense. So I was like, I wanted to be more adaptable and be more efficient. And I wanted to be more like, doesn't matter what they're doing, I'm going to find a way. So that's something I really put work into training, and then I try to do it in competition. And in the beginning it was actually quite almost like scary, because when you have like a very like A game and a plan, it's very comforting to be in that, because that's your comfort zone, right? So it's almost like I had to go into competition and just kind of be like open, like whatever happens, I'm going to be fine. That was kind of the mindset, right? And then interestingly enough, I was able to just do stuff that I was like surprised myself. I just found solution. I just adapted to the moment. I was kind of free. And when I'm like looking at myself where I'm at my best, for example in training, that's when I'm like that. I don't have like, oh, I have to play that guard, I have to do that. I'm just rolling around doing, adapting to whatever happens. So why not do that in competition? Why be a different version? Because I feel people are like, whenever they're competing, they're always like, they're telling me all the moves they're going to do. I'm going to do ankle lock in this competition. I'm going to work my triangle in this competition. And I'm like, that's pretty hard to control it that much. Because a competition, there's so many variables. You have no idea how it's going to unfold. So if you're like stuck on the idea of doing a triangle and then they're hiding the arm, you're going to be like forcing it and spending so much energy. So the way I'm trying to approach it nowadays, it's like I'm looking at what they're doing and I'm taking what they're giving. Nice. And that enables me to be adaptable, but also very energy efficient.
I've seen that change. At the start, do you say that you actually got a little bit worse when you stepped on, because you are deviating from that plan, or was it an instant sort of? I feel like if I've tried to say, let's just say I want to try a takedown for an example, and not a guard pull, which I've done before and failed and then got choked. But do you find that it takes a while to adapt to that, or was it instant for you? Was that change, or was it like, okay, I'm actually feel like I'm getting a bit worse, but I know the process of this is going to eventually, it's going to make me more free and open, which will then give me a massive open, rounded game. Did you think that was like, or was it hard to see if there was any difference in that? If you know what I mean?
I feel like there was almost like a process, because you have this set game, then you start opening up, and like sometimes that kind of burned me. I got smashed because of that. But then I also knew that like if I trust that this will work, I know it's going to be like good in the end. So kind of in that zone. When you start doing it, it's like you just have to trust, and then maybe you kind of holding back, so you want to go back to the plan. So you're in this kind of like middle zone. You're not kind of sure what you're doing, and that can kind of destroy like your adaptability and trusting your moves. But the more I've done it, the more I almost like gain the trust, because it's all about trust in the end. It's like trusting that you will have the right response, because when you don't trust, that's when you start like overthinking, planning, trying to control. But when you just trust yourself, you're able to just like be open and just do whatever needs to happen in some sense.
I suppose it's confidence almost. You've got confidence behind yourself that whatever happens, I'm okay. I'm going to be able to deal with the situation eventually. Yeah, that's good. It's good to see that change, because I think that's the stage I'm going through now. But it is difficult, because I think you do lose and you think, I'm getting worse. But then obviously it's a long game. It'll get better in the long run. So what's coming up for you then next?
So next for me, actually gonna be Polaris, the Grand Prix. So that's gonna be interesting, and do no-gi.
Cool.
So that's gonna be tough.
So you're gonna focus more on no-gi then going forward, or you're not sure?
So I'm definitely gonna have gi as my main focus, but like in the recent years, I have barely trained no-gi and I haven't done too much. I did like one London Open with no-gi. But my plan has been to go more and more into no-gi. I was kind of thinking of doing it after the season, but then this opportunity came up and I was like, I should grab it.
Nice.
So now I'm training more no-gi and trying to learn it. But the long-term plan is to have gi as main focus, but also develop my no-gi so I can do both.
Yeah, nice. Do you see a time when the gi gets almost, let's just say, not forgotten, because it'll kill us all if that doesn't happen? Or do you think it will... Do you think a time will come when the gi is no longer needed or wanted? I
have no idea how it's gonna unfold, but experience-wise, I know that a lot of people love gi. A lot of people train gi. So I think like no gi got ahead due to different factors in terms of like professional. And that was like obviously Gordon and ADCC, and they're doing very good with all of this. But I definitely think that gi is such a big... There's so many people training it and loving the game, so I think it has a lot of potential to grow a lot on the professional level in some sense. Yeah.
I don't know if the gi is going to be more like a masters event, and then maybe as young adults coming through. We just get like a lot of people come to the gym now, like that'll do a year the gi and no gi, and then they'll just all of a sudden be like, I'm just doing no gi now. And I'm like, what do you mean? There's like 4 classes of no gi a week. Just do whatever. Just train as much as you can. Don't focus on one or the other. And they're like, I just want to do no gi.
Yeah, but I also think to some degree it's almost like a trend. There's like some people that has a lot of influence on the no gi side that a lot of people listen to. So they like, gi is boring or whatever. So these kind of ideas builds up. But I don't necessarily think it's true. I think it comes down to the fighters. There's a lot of people that have extremely boring no-gi matches. And obviously there's a lot of people having boring gi matches. But if you have the right athletes and you incentivize them to really push, they can be super exciting. So you see that at like Worlds or Europeans, there's a lot of cool moves as well, right?
Do you think that's going to go more towards like submission only then? Or... and away from points?
I don't know. I don't think necessarily submission only is the way either, because the problem with submission only is that people then they don't care about the giving up positions, and that if you don't care about giving up position, it's easier to not get submitted, right? So sometimes the fact that you have points that you need to fight to not get past or whatever, that can create like excitement. Then you give the arm and get an arm bar. So I'm not sure necessarily what's the optimal rule set, but in the end, no matter what, it's about the athletes. And I think it's also very important that the athletes also understand the importance of being exciting or trying to make an exciting match. Because I feel some people or some athletes are too caught up in the idea of winning. Because I think if I win, that's going to be the best thing for my career, and that's how I'm going to build a name. But there's so many people that wins, but they don't necessarily have a big name, and they don't necessarily are able to make a good life of jiu-jitsu. I think people have to really realize that if you're willing to take chances, that's going to pay off. Sometimes you're going to lose, that's for sure. But in the end, in the big picture, that's what's going to make people want to watch your jiu-jitsu. That's going to make sure that's going to make that shows are like asking you to do fights, sponsors, and all of these things. So I truly think that trying to push and be exciting, it's very beneficial. Yeah,
it's a difficult balance, because you are right. If you got that unbeaten record, you probably want to keep that going. So But then it's like we talked about earlier on. How do you grow and adapt fast in the moment in the long run?
Yeah.
You got to lose a bit. Which
Yeah,
is
that's
hard
the thing.
to take
And
on.
the good thing about Jiu-Jitsu though, there's so many tournaments. You know, it's not like UFC where I have 1 or 2 matches and that's it in a year. There's always a new tournament. So like everyone loses eventually. It's okay to lose. Is you have to think like bigger picture, and it's not worth being so restrictive and conservative to never lose. Because in the end, the big picture, you're gonna lose because you have such a boring style, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's something to try and pass down. I'm back competing now. I had a little break recently, but I know that I'm probably not ready to compete yet, but I just want to get back used to the feeling of competition and all that kind of stuff again. And I talked to you earlier on about my 2 children that came and competed, and they both lost, but I did the same competition as them, and I got it was on YouTube. So my little boy was like, "Oh, I'm on YouTube, Dad," and he came out. He's my like corner man.
That's amazing.
And I thought I'm probably going to lose in front of him, but then I want him to see that, like, lose, because then I can go back to training room, adapt. Okay, what do I need to work on, and that kind of skill. Yeah, it's a hard thing to teach. It's hard to teach because, for example, I know some let's just say bigger, ultra heavy guys that don't really lose much, and then I see them take 1 or 2 losses, and then they're like, it's not for me. Jiu-Jitsu's not for me. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, be small, and then you get to lose everything.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
it's difficult to teach that.
Yeah.
So moving on to your strength and conditioning, then, do you do much or?
I'm not the guy that does the most strength and conditioning. In most of my career, I've done mainly Jiu-Jitsu. Nowadays, like the last year and a half, I've been doing more strength. But I have like kind of like a weird approach to strength. I don't do like a lot of different exercises. I do mainly like pull-ups and dips. And the reason why is just because, in my view, Jiu-Jitsu is you do so much pulling when you go for like the back, when you're passing, but also you do a lot of triceps when you're passing with like Toriando and knee slide. And I have pretty strong legs already, so I don't feel I need to do that so much. So mostly my strength nowadays has been like pull-ups and dips, and then I do climbing. Nice. Because I try to do my strength and conditioning in a way where I think it's fun, and I like, for example, to climb. So that's gonna make me keep doing it. You know, it's that
enthusiasm.
It's kind of exactly. It's sustainable. Nice. So that's actually been my approach.
That's cool. So you think what I found is slightly though what's hindered me a little bit with when I did just do jiu-jitsu quite a lot and then ease back from the strength and conditioning was I built up like almost imbalances in my body, whereas because I played like an underhook game quite a lot, so this side of my QL and my back was like I end up walking around like this a little bit. So you don't find any imbalances, but I suppose your game is very it's open anyway. It's not like you're relying on one side or the other. You seem to be able to twist and turn in all directions.
I think I'm pretty ambidextrous and I play both sides, so I don't think I'm like over using one side, but I can definitely see if you're playing like, I don't know, play half guard all the time on one side, you can kind of be more like asymmetric. So, but I think in general though, like just doing strength, I can really see the benefit of getting symmetric in some sense, because Jiu-Jitsu, you're always going to have one side you do more, right? So that's actually one of the main reasons to do it, just for like the injury, like to stay injury free and have balance in your body, right?
I think so, I think so. So is it something you're going to plan to do more of, strength and conditioning, or are you just going to keep doing what you're doing, as in climbing and stuff? Or
I always talk I'm going to do more. I'm saying that, but the thing is, I also want to run more. There's so many things I would like to do, and then it's like balancing that with my time and energy. You have to have the energy. And then I'm the kind of guy, if I could, I tend to go towards the thing I found the most fun. So before, when I had the decision like do strength or do jiu-jitsu, I've chosen jiu-jitsu. Nowadays, if I can have time, should I do strength or should I do climbing? I tend to choose climbing, just because it's so much fun, and because when I have so much fun, I think the output I can do is higher, because I don't thinking about this as training, but there's like a side result of it in some sense.
So what about sort of conditioning? So not as much strength now, but conditioning. Did you get that mostly from the mats, or?
I get mostly my conditioning from the mats, but kind of one way I've been viewing Jiu-Jitsu more in the recent times is it doesn't really make sense to try to get all your cardio and strength through Jiu-Jitsu anymore, because my idea when I'm training Jiu-Jitsu is I want to be as efficient as possible. So I want almost to not get my heart rate too much up. Of course, I have to sometimes, because you have to fight and you have to fight for the positions. But I want my jitsu to be so technical and so efficient that I don't necessarily have to use a lot of cardio. And then I think I can get my cardio other places. That's why I've been running more lately. And that's also, I feel, a more safer way. Because if you're gonna go like crazy hard rounds all the time to get your cardio there, it's higher chance of getting injured, especially long term.
Yeah.
So I feel if your jitsu is very geared towards like being technical, then you can actually get a lot outside the mats. So like running or assault bike and all these things.
Yeah, nice. I've been doing the zone 2 recently. Do you know much about that? It's like like your heart rate low for the distance though.
Yeah.
That's been working really well for me.
Yeah.
I find like the sparring is like 5 minutes on, for example, 1 minute off or whatever. It's like fast and up and down. But then I miss that the heart rate steady for like a long time, for 45 minutes plus. That's been working well for my recovery. But we had a conversation before about it, and you said about you can pick up cardio anytime. But technique is
that's
where the money is.
Right? Yeah, because everyone can be in good shape, everyone can be strong.
Yeah.
But to be really technical, that takes years, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I want to have my main focus. So I think that's where we need to double down. I think
it's most sort of bang for buck almost. That's where you get the most value from it. And then because I think sometimes I do like an hour of conditioning a day and then like 2 hours of jits or whatever. Yeah. But then am I sometimes better off doing maybe a more technical session of jiu-jitsu and then not doing as much strength and conditioning? I feel like that's probably going forward is more of a sustainable output. I won't keep you, mate, for long because I know you've done seminars and he's travelled down, he's got the train to catch and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a quick one today. I just want to say thanks, mate, for coming down this part of the country. We'll get you back again whenever you're over, and we'll always have you down here, mate. So thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.